How's it going, Diablo fans? Welcome to my machine gun Ice-Shards build. I've been using this build since level 60 and I'm easily blasting nightmare dungeons 20 levels above my character level. And it has very low gear requirement, no unique item requirements, and it also does not need any of the late game Vampiric Powers. The build is also super tanky due to the permanent life leech from the Undying Vampiric Power. It has infinite mana and a lot of movement speed. And in general, if you like frost-based builds, this build is the build for you. The visuals are really nice. All the enemies are pretty much frozen all the time. And it just works great. I love this build. And remember, you will find links to the build guide in the description down below. Also, there's links to all the specific sections of this guide. And I will also link you some recordings from my stream where you can actually see this build in action for an extended period of time if you're interested. And as always, at the very end of this video, I will leave you real Nightmare Dungeon footage of this build. In this case, I will have one video where I'm doing like level 50 plus Nightmare Dungeons when I'm already level 80 and above. And I will also leave one Nightmare Dungeon for like level 70 or something like that. Before we get into the skills, the skill tree, the legendary aspects, the item and stat priorities, the vampiric powers and the Paragon Board, let's do a brief summary on the synergies of the build and how they work together to make this build so amazing. Our main damage source here in this build is Ice Shards using the Ice-Shards enchantment and Frozen Orb using the Frozen Orb enchantments, and we max out both skills to take the most advantage out of it. The beauty of this build that it's so simple to build. Pretty much we don't really care about anything, all we do is build Lucky Hit, that's it. So to really make it simple, Lucky Hit is pretty much the only stat we care. We don't care about crit damage, we don't care about crit chance, we don't care about vulnerable. We really don't have any requirements in our gear other than Lucky Hit. So what do we need all this Lucky Hit for? First of all, we need it for our mana regeneration. This build is avalanche based, so it makes our Ice Shards free to cast based on Lucky Hit. And also we use the Frigid Breeze passive, which also gives us mana regeneration based on Lucky Hit whenever we hit a vulnerable enemy. We use Lucky Hit for the Ravenous Vampiric Power, which essentially gives us a very high attack speed here. And furthermore, we also use Lucky Hit to fuel the Accursed Touch Vampiric Power. This is going to put Vampiric Curse on every single enemy, and killing enemies afflicted by Vampiric Curse pretty much stores their soul, and then whenever you cast a defensive skill, it sends out these ghosts which automatically target enemies, and when they reach an enemy they explode in like an AoE blood explosion thing. Furthermore, a very important part is that all enemies afflicted by the curse are vulnerable, because we use the Prey on the Weak Vampiric Power here. That means we can actually skip some of the regular vulnerable mechanics for the Shards Sorc and do something different. Because we don't need Ice Shards anymore to apply vulnerable, we can actually switch from destructive Ice Shards over to greater Ice Shards. And greater Ice Shards actually is incredibly good. Before you used to never use it because you pretty much had to use the destructive ones, but now we can use greater ones, and that's just gonna shoot your Ice Shards all over the place by itself. Since all enemies are vulnerable all the time, we can use additional synergies to greatly boost our damage. These synergies are the new Icefall legendary node, and that's going to boost our damage by 15% or 30% against frozen, and enemies here are pretty much frozen all the time. Furthermore, we get another 16% damage against vulnerable enemies from the Prey on the Weak Vampiric Power. We take another 10% from the Exploit glyph, and of course vulnerable itself gives us another 20% here. And to put the cherry on the cake, we use the Undying Vampiric Power here with our very high attack speed. This gives us a crazy life leech, pretty much makes us able to face tank all the mobs we want for an unlimited amount of time. I'm a bit sorry for the little bit long introduction here, but this build has so much synergy and I in general just love how simple it is to build and how great it works. But now, without further ado, let's just get right into the build guide and let's start with the skill tree here. For the skill tree, we just put some points into basic skills. We only needed to get access to core skills. And we max out Frozen Orb with Enhanced Frozen Orb and Greater Frozen Orb. I did not test it yet. If you can switch to Destructive Frozen Orb, feel free to check that out. The Vulnerable from Frozen Orb might not be required. Maybe you will benefit from the additional mana regeneration here. Then we also max out Ice Shards with Enhanced Ice Shards and Greater Ice Shards. If you struggle with mana regeneration, again, you can switch back to Destructive Ice Shard. It's not so important. It definitely helps with mana regeneration if you struggle. So make sure to check out these two, Destructive Ice Shard and Destructive Frozen Orb, if you struggle with mana regeneration. Then we put 1 point into Elemental Attunement and 3 points into Glass Cannon, pretty basic stuff. 1 point into Flame Shield, 1 point into Teleport, 1 point into Ice Armor, and Frost Nova up to Mystical Frost Nova. If you have a +2 defensive amulet or +3 defensive amulet, you can actually take these 3 points here out and put 1 point into Devastation and 2 points into Elemental Dominance. That's just gonna give you a little bit extra damage, but it doesn't matter all that much. Let's go to Precision Magic, Lucky Hit. Obviously, this is a Lucky Hit based build. We get 1 point into Align the Elements and 3 points into Protection. This is our main barrier generator, and we always need to have barrier up for our legendary aspects to properly work. We put all points into the Cold passive, so Cold Front and Snap Freeze and Icy Veil. This gives us more barrier uptime and more chill and freeze application, which we really need. And then we also max out all the other Frost passives here. These are like very, very great damage multiplicators. If you have Hoarfrost on your amulet, that's definitely the best multiplicator you can get here. As you can see, this gives like a 36% damage to Frozen with 6 ranks. And Frigid Breeze is another important point for our mana regeneration here. Then we max out Deep Freeze with Prime Deep Freeze and Supreme Deep Freeze. And last but not least, we take Avalanche to give us the free Ice Shards casts. For the skills, let's start with the ultimate here. We use Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze is great to reset your other defensive cooldowns like Frost Nova and Flame Shield and everything, and it also does a big chunk of damage together with Ice Spikes. So you might always want to use it when you have it up and you have your other skills on cooldown and there's like elites around. Something about that. Frost Nova instantly applies Frozen to all enemies and also make them vulnerable, so this is pretty much a no-brainer for all Ice Shards builds. Teleport to get around faster and also to trigger the ghosts from the Vampiric Power. Flame Shield is our main tanking ability. It will reset quite a lot and you can pretty much stand still, pop Flame Shield all the time and kill everything, and normally everything is down before you even Flame Shield. Ice Shards is our main DPS spell, and Ice Armor is pretty much just for triggering as a defensive ability to give us like a shield for all our synergies. The armor itself actually doesn't really matter. Frozen Orb Enchantment, as we have a very high attack speed, this triggers a lot of extra Frozen Orbs, and since we put 5 points into it, these also do a big chunk of damage, and also it's an additional application of Vulnerable. At this point, I'm not sure if that's even required or if we could switch to the other Frozen Orb effect, the destructive one, which actually gives a little bit more additional mana regeneration. I will test that out and maybe make a comment or make an updated build guide later. And Ice Shards Enchantment, obviously this is an Ice Shards build, so we have an Ice Shard Enchantment. For the legendary aspects, we put the aspect of control on our amulet. This gives up to 48%. This is bugged on max roll. It doesn't take into account the extra 50% from the amulet for whatever reason. Then we put the Storm Swell aspect. This gives us another 30% damage to vulnerable enemies while we have a barrier, and these two conditions should always be the case. Then we put the Conceited aspect on our second weapon slot. This gives us another 25% damage while we have a barrier. And last but not least, our last offensive aspect is the aspect of Piercing Cold. This is mandatory for all Ice Shards builds. Make sure you got a roll with 4. If you have 3, you can still use it, but 4 is much better. Then let's move over to the defensive and utility aspects. So first of all, we put the Unwavering aspect here. This gives a 6% chance to reset a defensive skill when we get hit. This is a mid-game build, and we always get hit pretty much a lot, and this actually triggers quite a lot. And as we don't really need another defensive aspect at this point, we can freely take this aspect here. Then we use the aspect of Shared Misery on our chest. Shared Misery is also just spread the crowd control. This is pretty much also mandatory for every crowd control build. And then we use the aspect of Disobedience on our pants. That is pretty much a no-brainer. It's always going to be used. And then last but not least, on our boots, we use the aspect of Fortune. And that gives us additional lucky hit chance. And this is a lucky hit based build, so we need all lucky hit chance we can get here. And then we have the resource aspect, number 1, that is the Avalanche, the aspect of Frozen Memories. That gives us an additional free cast whenever Avalanche triggers. This is pretty important. This might also not be required anymore. If we get a high enough mana pool and enough lucky hit, I will experiment with this build more towards the late game and see if this aspects can actually be changed to another offensive one. And then we also use the Prodigy's aspect right now. It's fine if you have the Codex roll with 15, it just works great. So whenever you, for whatever reason, you get out of mana, you just use a defensive skill and you get your mana back. It helps a lot. Also, this is probably gonna go if enough lucky hit and mana regeneration comes from mana pool and skills. For the item and stat priorities, I'm going to show you the dream stats right now, and after that I'm going to show you how bad my gear actually is and how I'm still blasting. So you can just see that all these modifiers are a wish list, but you don't really need any of these at all. All you need is the lucky hit modifiers, and everything else you can just build whenever you get better gear. So let's start with the helmet here. Helmet is lucky hit chance, cooldown reduction, max life, and 1 resistance. Doesn't matter which resistance, you just want to cap resistance. On our chest, we want max life, total armor, and 2 resistances. On our gloves, we want lucky hit chance, restore primary resource, and Ice Shards and Frozen Orbs rank. Ice Shards and Frozen Orb rank should be priority here, then lucky hit chance, and then last but not least the primary resource here. On our pants, again, max life, armor, 1 resistance, and 1 damage reduction stat. On our boots, we want to have movement speed, mana cost reduction, movement speed after killing an elite, and a defensive stat. In this case, I just have Frost Nova. Doesn't matter all that much. On our wand, we pretty much want intelligence, all stats, core skill damage, and damage to chilled enemies. The damage stats, take whatever you can get. Main stat and all stats is pretty much the best rolls you can get here as well. On our amulet, ideally we want to have defensive skills, Hoarfrost skills, movement speed, and percent intelligence. If you can't get defensive, get Hoarfrost. That is definitely better than defensive here. On our first ring, we want to have lucky hit chance, maximum life, critical strike chance, resource generation. On the second one, we pretty much want to get the same, but maybe maximum mana. Most important of this roll again is lucky hit chance and the maximum life rolls here. And on our focus, we can get cooldown reduction and lucky hit chance with barrier, and chance to slow. Chance to slow is actually really, really useful when staggering bosses. So if you can get it, great. If you can't get it, you're just gonna take a little bit longer doing bosses. So as I said, the dream stats on max roll, you don't really need them. This is my character. I'm actually level 89 now, and I haven't upgraded my items for 20 levels. I didn't change anything at all. So let me just show you what I have. So on my helmet, this is actually a pretty good one. I have triple resistance and lucky hit chance with barrier, but that's pretty much it. On my chest, I have some damage reduction and maximum life. This is also, I guess, a good chest piece. The gloves I have are actually pretty nice. I have lucky hit and Ice Shards and Frozen Orb, critical strike chance. Well, I don't really need it. It's pretty much useless, but I focused on Ice Shards and Frozen Orb here. On my pants, I have total armor, damage reduction, code resistance, and max life. I guess my armor pieces are actually pretty good. On my boots, these are like not very good. I have movement speed, mana cost reduction, and Frost Nova. I don't have speed after killing an enemy. Make sure to have the evade grants 75% movement speed. That actually helps a lot. My wand, I don't even want to talk about it. I just went for the item level here. I have two completely wasted stats, ultimate skill damage and damage to stunned enemies. I don't even have money to do the enchantments. I don't have the souls I need for that. My amulet, also pretty terrible. I mean, I got movement speed after killing an elite. That's pretty nice. The other stats are useless. Damage after killing an elite is useless. Critical strike chance against injured enemies is useless. And I got +3 to Hoarfrost. My first ring is the same story. I don't really have anything on here. Vulnerable damage is useless. Damage to injured is useless. Damage to burning is useless. The only thing here I have is resource generation. And my second ring, I have crit chance, damage to chilled, lucky hit chance, and resource generation. So I guess my second ring is alright. And on my focus, I also don't have anything good. I just have random heal, lucky hit chance with barrier, and resource generation. So as you can see, my gear is really, really bad. I didn't spend a lot of time optimizing it. I might make another round of optimizing before I push to level 100. But as you can see, focus on lucky hit, that's it. So let's go over the Vampiric Powers. First we have the Undying Vampiric Power. This is just really, really great if you have attack speed. The healing is really nice, you really feel it. Then we have the Accursed Touch that applies the Vampiric Curse on lucky hit, and also the additional damage of the souls matters quite a lot. Then we have the Prey on the Weak that gives us another 16% damage to vulnerable enemies and also makes enemies affected by Vampiric Curse vulnerable. So this is very important and makes a big chunk of our build run. Then we have the Ravenous. This is the no-brainer, which gives us a lot of attack speed on lucky hit. Even without any movement speed bonus, this gives you 50.2%. And as we already said, if you have items like movement speed after killing an elite or movement speed after teleporting, this also makes this effect much stronger. Also, I don't have movement speed on my amulet, so I'm completely missing this here. And last but not least, we use Domination. This is just giving us a 24% increased damage to frozen enemies. And also injured enemies get instantly killed. I don't know if that actually matters a whole lot, but the 24% damage multiplicator is the nice thing here. Last but not least, let's go over the Paragon Board. This is still optimized for early level and not having your glyphs on maximum. So I only have level 15 glyphs here, and I also have glyphs which are still level 1. We just start with getting these defensive nodes here and these damage nodes here, and we put in the control glyph here with 39 dexterity. This is for the 20% bonus damage to frozen, and also damage to crowd controlled is a nice modifier for us, though this is pretty much the strongest damage multiplicator glyph we can get at this point. Then we move over to the Icefall board, and we pretty much pick everything in this board here. So we get all the damage reduction here, we get the damage to chilled, we get even more damage to chilled, we get even more damage reduction, and then we also get frost damage and chill application here. And as our glyph, we just put in the level 1 Elementalist glyph here with 40 intelligence. This just gives us a 15% multiplier to damage, and that's pretty much all it does right now. We don't care about the buff to rare nodes. And then we move over to our Enchantment Master board right now. Here also we just pick up all the damage nodes, right? We pick the non-physical damage here, we pick the non-physical damage here, we pick the non-physical damage here. And for our glyph, we put in the Frostbite glyph. We level this up. This gives us bonus damage to chilled enemies, and frozen enemies count as chilled. And also it gives us a little bit damage reduction after enemies have been frozen. Then we move over to our Keyless Conduit board. We just use it to pick up the Exploit glyph. That gives us an extra 10% damage to vulnerable, and also the 60.2% is just an additive damage modificator for us right now. And here at the bottom we pick up all these nice damage versus elite and movement speed nodes. And this is pretty much the early Paragon board. This is not a late game Paragon board. If you have level 21 glyphs and the full Paragon board, this might completely change. This is just, you can start building this from level 60 on. So this is an easy Paragon board to build.
I'm not ready yet. Out of mana once again. I need time to prepare that. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm out of mana. I need time to prepare that. I'm not ready yet. I need time to prepare that. 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 I lack mana. I need time to prepare. I'm out of mana. I need time to prepare that. I need time to ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I need time to prepare that. I need time to prepare that. I need time to prepare that. I'm not ready yet.
They've been feeding on me. My soul. Please. Take it back from me.
Out of my mouth once again. I need time to prepare this. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I need time to prepare that. I need time to prepare that. ready yet. I need time to prepare it. I need time to I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I need time to prepare them. I'm out of mana. I need time to I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.